Lisa, thanks for joining me today, and thanks for being a premium subscriber to Teen Drama Horror. These interviews with fans are a perk of your premium subscription. It's only premium subscribers who get to enjoy these interviews, and only premium subscribers that are eligible to participate in them. And I'm so excited to talk with you today. The theme for this installment is unpopular teen drama opinions. But before we get to that, I'd like to start with the origins of your teen drama fandom.
Okay.
How did you first connect with the teen dramas?
So I grew up watching the WB. That's pretty much where it started. Buffy was probably my first introduction. So I wasn't a 90210 fan quite like yourself. It took a little bit later.
Shame.
Yeah. But definitely when the WB kicked off, that was right when I was a freshman in high school. It was what everyone talked about. So I really got brought in, watching Buffy and Felicity and Dawson's and Roswell and all of those kind of original shows. And then later on, Gilmore Girls and Veronica Mars, and then the CW happened. So it has been a while, but definitely the WB was kind of my way in. And my first big teen drama was Dawson's Creek.
Well, can you share how Dawson's Creek led you to meet your husband?
Yeah. So in 2015, I came down to Wilmington for a break from my current job, and I went and did the Dawson's Creek walking tour, which included Hell's Kitchen.
Right.
And it happened to have a hockey game on, and I was a Caps fan, so I was watching the hockey game in Hell's Kitchen, where Joey was the bartender. And this couple next to me saw that I was a DC fan and invited me to hang out, and it turned out to be my future brother and sister-in-law. So I stayed in close contact with them, and the more I came to visit Wilmington, the more I hung out with their family. And then in 2016, they introduced me to Steven, who is now my husband and father to Elizabeth. So,
Wow, that's amazing. And I believe you took your engagement photos at Dawson's house, right?
Yes. So back before COVID, back when it was safe and they were able to have more people come by, I got in touch with not the owner, it's the owner's son-in-law, I think is the connection. But I reached out to him, just cold call, and I was like, I'm a huge fan. I would love to have my engagement photos there. I don't have to come in the house. And he let us do it. So we got to spend 45 minutes in the yard of Dawson's Creek, and I got some pretty great engagement photos.
That's awesome. And your birthday present this year is also related to the show, right?
Yes. My boss has a friend, Elizabeth Sheets, who does amazing watercolors. I can't think of her handle right now, but I'm sure if you Google her, you'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
And as a wedding present, Stephanie had her paint the Dawson's Creek house for me. And then for my birthday, she did the Airlie Road, the bend in Airlie Road, which is where Pacey and Joey kissed for the first time. And that's actually where my husband proposed to me. So it's a special spot for both reasons.
Wow, that's amazing. So you mentioned how you also have Gilmore Girls and Veronica Mars. Tell me about your involvement with the Veronica Mars Kickstarter.
Yeah, so in 2013 when it came out, I was a huge Veronica Mars fan. I definitely thought Veronica should have ended up with Logan, so I was very unhappy that it got canceled in the way it did. So when the Kickstarter came out, I was one of the first people that donated, and I did the level where I got to be an extra in the movie. So I actually flew out there for a week. I was on set for 4 days. I got to meet pretty much the entire cast, the crew, all the other Kickstarter fans. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I absolutely loved it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, it's now time for the moment of truth. What is your unpopular teen drama opinion?
So I think that Dan would have made a good choice to be Gossip Girl if him and Blair had been Endgame. And I can explain.
Please do.
So throughout all of Gossip Girl, horrible things happened, like good, bad, ugly, and she reported on absolutely every storyline except for one. And it was the storyline when Blair lost her baby. And they even made a comment of calling out in the show about how Gossip Girl had been quiet because it was the first time that she had not reported on something that had happened to the core group. And it's the only time that Gossip Girl had not reported on the core group. And so when they introduced Dan and Blair, kind of their friendship beginning in like season 4, on their quest to save Serena, but then just seeing it kind of grow organically, seeing them come together, the way that he kind of protected her, it would have made sense in my head if they had stayed together. And it turned out he had been Gossip Girl, because I felt like that key storyline, there was some reason why she didn't report on it. And I didn't know if it would tie back to Blair or tie back to, Serena, but I felt like it needed to come back to that. And so, yeah, I was very much a Dan Blair fan though too. So I should probably admit that from the get-go.
So let me get this straight. You agree that as it stands, it doesn't make much sense that Dan ended up being Gossip Girl.
Right.
But if it does make sense to you if Dan was Gossip Girl because Dan cared so much for Blair that he didn't report on her losing the baby.
Yeah.
So you are presenting to me the one logical reason why Dan could be Gossip Girl.
Well, and also, I mean, I was a huge fan of the Gossip Girl books, so I actually own all of them. They're currently downstairs in my little bookcase because, teen drama forever. Yeah. But in it, I mean, the show was so different from the books. But one of the main things was Jenny Humphrey. They really talked about how she did everything to kind of bring attention to herself. And I felt like the big argument was Dan couldn't have been Gossip Girl because of all the stuff he said about his sister. And I think them tying in that it was her idea, like Jenny wanted to get out of the situation, that actually was a callback to the books and actually something I really bought into. And so I think that there were pieces there where they could have made that ending seem logical. And then they just didn't.
They just didn't, yeah. Which we all can agree on. Putting aside the Dan as Gossip Girl factor, you are a Dare shipper. So what do you say to those who believe that Chuck and Blair were the rightful endgame?
Well, I have lots of issues with Chuck. I mean, and not even to start with who he was in the books, because that's a whole other story with his pet monkey and all of that ridiculousness. But in the show, I felt like Dan and her were more equal, like they were more partners in their relationship, and it definitely seemed like they were on even ground. Whereas with Chuck and Blair, she was always trying to get him to be what she wanted him to be, and he was never there. Wanted him to say, I love you, wanted him to acknowledge her, wanted, X, Y, and Z, whereas with Dan, it was much more, it felt like an actual relationship. And you'll appreciate this. So when Veronica Mars ended and everyone was like, she should have been with Logan, the fans were like, it's okay, because in real life she married Dax Shepard, so she ended up with Logan. Well, for Dan and Blair fans, we're like, well, Leighton Meester married Adam Brody, so she ended up with Dan in real life.
It is amazing how that has worked out with the Gossip Girl and the OC having like a real life marriage among the cast. It's just incredibly unique and incredibly special. Though they're both what I consider part of the core shows in the genre, Dawson's Creek and Gossip Girl are so different in their style, in their tone. What do you see as a connection between your love for both of them?
It comes down to the relationships. I definitely think the main reason why I got brought into it is I am a shipper. My current boss, Stephanie Lanier, loves to joke that she never realizes how much of a fan I am until I do like certain things. She's like, you hide it very well, but every once in a while you say something or do something and it's like, oh, you're pretty far down the teen ship Kool-Aid. And it's true. I think that's what it all comes back to, is the relationships, and you can really relate to them and you root for them and you want them to work out. And then you just keep watching the messes that happen and you keep rooting for your team, and sometimes they win, like Dawson and Joey. Clearly that's how it should have ended. And
you mean Pacey and Joey.
Oh, we should probably edit that out.
That's okay.
I have an 11-month-old daughter. She turned 11 months old today. I am very sleep deprived. So yes, as Sherry pointed out, it should be Pacey and Joey.
Yes.
That's how it should be. But, you know, I have relationships like Dan and Blair where it did not turn out to be the way I wanted it to. And like I said, I got Leighton Meester and Adam Brody. They're together in real life.
I don't even want to talk about Logan and that whole thing. So last question, will you be watching the Gossip Girl spinoff on HBO Max?
So I'll probably check it out. I mean, there's been a ton of reboots from the old WB shows lately. Like they redid Charmed, they redid Roswell, and now they're redoing Gossip Girl. And I like to at least check it out because I do love the fandom so much. And sometimes, you know, different spins, different unique storylines, it can still become a good show. And the thing that I always think of is Harry Potter. Like, I love the Harry Potter books and I love the Harry Potter movies, but they're very different and they have very different things. And so I try to really just appreciate the story. So I'll check it out. I'm not sure if I'll like it or not. We'll kind of see how it goes. Sometimes they do really great things. And then, you know, there was one, did you ever watch Secret Circle?
I didn't. I know about it, of course, and Britt Robertson, who went on to star in Life Unexpected and all that. But yeah.
I was obsessed with those books. I still own my original copies from like 1990, and they're like torn and ratted, but like they did horrible things to that storyline. Like they just bastardized the books. So I was not surprised when they did not get past to season 1. So sometimes, you know, they try and they epically miss, but when they get it right, they get it right. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of going into the same way. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to do a reaction post for TGW, but I can't say that I'm necessarily excited or confident. But we'll see. Lisa, thank you so much for your time today, especially on a weekend, at a holiday time. You can be with your husband and your daughter. I love hearing how Dawson's Creek really influenced your love story. It's crazy to think, like, where you might be if there was no Dawson's Creek.
I know.
And just of all the submissions I received for my request for unpopular teen drama opinion, I just found yours so intriguing and interesting because of the whole confusion about Dan being Gossip Girl. And you pointed out a reason why it could make sense that I had never considered before. So thank you so much for talking to me today. And thank you so much for being one of Teen Drama Whore's premium subscribers.
Thanks for having me.
All right.